So let's first define specialty medicines. And while a formal definition does not exist, I think it's important that we agree on some context. Specialty medicines, specialty drugs, or specialty pharmaceuticals are a recent designation of treatments that are classified as high complexity, high cost, and/or high touch. Specialty drugs are often biologics that are injectable or infused, but they can also be oral tablets, small molecules, or even inhaled. They're used to treat complicated, rare, and chronic conditions within a wide variety of indications. These medicines often have specialized distribution, storage, and handling requirements to ensure appropriate conditions are met, and additional and significant patient contact, what's typically beyond the norm, is required for these meds to manage side effects and ensure treatment compliance. So according to the pharmacy benefit manager Magellan RX, medications must have at least one of the following characteristics in order to be classified as a specialty medication. High-cost medications are typically priced at more than $1,000 per 30-day supply, and this can be a wide range of products from professionally administered infusions to oral tablets. High-complexity medicines are biotechnology products, orphan or ultra-orphan drugs, medications that are included in the specialty therapeutic drug class strategy. Think precision medicine for this category. And high-touch medications require temperature control, other special handling and shipping requirements, refrigerated or frozen storage, ongoing drug management by a pharmacist, physicians specializing in treating the patient's condition, focused, in-depth patient education, compliance monitoring, side effect management, and even procedural education, things like teaching injection technique for self-administered injectables. This next slide is a snapshot of a specialty pharmacy drug list, and I'll just point out a few examples here. One such is Eylea, which is a recombinant fusion protein targeting VEGF and indicated for the wet form of age-related macular degeneration. It's injected intravitreally into the back of the eye by a retinal specialist, and it must be stored at 2 to 8C. Another example is Elaprase, an enzyme replacement therapy indicated for the treatment of an ultra-rare disease, type 2 mucopolysaccharidosis, or Hunter's syndrome. And this drug, it has a body weight dependent dosing scheme, but for the typical patient, it costs upwards of $500,000 per year. And then there's Numega, which is a recombinant IL-11 indicated for the prevention of severe thrombocytopenia. So in patients that are undergoing myelosuppressive chemotherapy, this drug has to be stored at 2 to 8C like Eylea, and patients' blood counts must be closely monitored during their course of therapy for serious adverse events. Specialty medicines are a growing market segment, but just to give you an idea of the historical trend, in 1990, there were 10 specialty drugs on the market. By 2015, more than 300. And in preparing for today's talk, I looked at the CVS specialty pharmacy list, and as of April of 2020, they have more than 520 specialty products on their menu. Specialty medicines often have special considerations. Let's take a close look at what's probably the most stringent example, which are REMS and REMS-like requirements. A risk evaluation and mitigation strategy is a program to manage known or potential serious risks associated with a drug product. REMS are required by FDA to ensure that the benefits of a drug outweigh the risks. And then the ex-US or EU analog of is an RMP, which is a risk management plan. And these risk management plans typically include specifics on a medicine safety profile, how its risks will be prevented or minimized, tracking activities, and measuring the effectiveness of the risk minimization plan. So let's dig into REMS a little bit. REMS programs, which again have to be approved by FDA, can have varied requirements consisting of some combination of a medication or med guide, which is the paper handouts that come with many prescription medicines. The med guide addresses issues that are specific to the particular drug or drug class and contain information that can help patients avoid serious adverse events. There's also a communication plan, which is the mechanism to disseminate information to healthcare providers about the REMS elements. So a great example of that is like the Dear Doctor letter. There's also the ETASU, or Elements to Assure Safe Use, and this is the meat and potatoes of the REMS. This is the restrictions on distribution and use that are intended to allow access for patients that would benefit from treatment while minimizing risk, but also blocking access to those where the risk would outweigh the benefits. For example, an ETASU might require that pharmacists that dispense the drug have special certifications, or that patients being prescribed the drug be subject to additional monitoring beyond what's typically the standard of care. There's also an implementation system, which is a tracking system that must be put in place through which the manufacturer takes reasonable steps to monitor and evaluate the doctors and pharmacists that need to adhere to the ETASU. So let's take a close look at an example of a well-known drug, isotretinoin, also previously known as Accutane, indicated for severe acne. This drug works wonderfully for many patients with moderate to severe cystic acne. However, it is also a potent teratogen, meaning that it can cause significant birth defects. Therefore, it carries a REMS requirement in the U.S. And the goals of that REMS are to first and foremost prevent fetal exposure to the drug, but also to inform prescribers, pharmacists, and patients about the drug's serious risks and monitor and ensure safe use conditions. So this particular REMS happens to include a medication guide, which is enclosed with each blister package of product to ensure that it's given to each patient when they pick up their prescription. The ETASU, which the various manufacturers of isotretinoin have branded iPledge, is this lengthy set of steps required to prescribe and monitor each patient. And then there's also an implementation system requirement, which is they've set up a secure web and voice-based interface to monitor pregnancy testing results and to link to monthly prescription authorizations. So each time a patient is considered for this drug, it generates this whole list of musts that have to happen. So as an example, healthcare providers must register each patient in the iPledge program via the program website. They must provide scheduled pregnancy testing for females of reproductive potential and then verify and document the negative test prior to writing each prescription. They must document the 2 chosen forms of contraception for each female of reproductive potential prior to writing that prescription, and they have to counsel each patient specifically about the drug risks. Pharmacists and wholesalers also have a list of musts. An example, a pharmacist has to obtain a unique verification number from the iPledge system to ensure that the patient is authorized to be receiving the drug. And then patients have work to do too. So patients have to enroll in the iPledge program, they have to comply with all testing and reporting, and they have to access the iPledge program system monthly before receiving each new refill, and again 1 month after treatment concludes to answer questions. So as you can see, there's quite a workload when treating with this drug. It's not just prescribe and see you at the next visit. Let's look next at what happens when adherence doesn't go as intended. There's a heavy cost associated with non-adherence. The numbers are actually quite staggering. Studies have consistently shown that 20 to 30% of medication prescriptions are never filled, and that approximately 50% of medications are not taken as prescribed. This according to a review in the Annals of Internal Medicine. This lack of adherence, according to the authors, is estimated to cause approximately 125,000 deaths and account for up to 10% of hospitalizations, costing the U.S. healthcare system more than $100 billion per year. So how can we improve compliance for specialty or perhaps even all medications? The short answer is technology. Via digital adherence monitoring, analysis, and intervention with the goal to enhance the safe delivery of complex specialty, and again, perhaps even all medicines, while minimizing burden to patients and healthcare providers. So let's take a look at some of these technologies. But first, a brief behind-the-scenes look at the technology landscape. There's this tidal wave of change happening, and it's a very exciting time to be involved in healthcare IT. There are new standards and recent mandates that are updating the rules of the game. So what is changing? For one, healthcare data continues to move from on-premise storage to the cloud. You can read this as better accessibility. And there are also new data standards that are being put in place. FHIR has been specifically mandated to create an open API that enables greater interoperability that did not exist before. So let's take a closer look at FHIR. What is FHIR? FHIR, or Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources, is a standard describing data formats and elements known as resources in an application programming interface, or API, for exchanging electronic health records. And this standard was created by the HL7 International Group. This is very important because previously most data was driven by message passing within the hospital's 4 walls. So it was locked down and hard for folks that were outside of the hospital or the provider to get access. And already today, there's more data exchange happening between the various components of the healthcare system as a result of a common standard like FHIR being agreed to. In addition to FHIR serving as the data framework, additional common standards like the implementation of REST-based architecture, and REST stands for Representational State Transfer. This defines a set of constraints that are used when creating web services. So these web services that conform to this REST architecture, called RESTful web services, provide interoperability between computer systems. And then also moving away from legacy standards like HL7 v2 to more semantic interoperability standards allows for the exchange of data with unambiguous shared meaning. For the non-techie, this whole slide can be summarized as change leading to better information sharing, and that healthcare can now function like other industries. So what's driving this change? Frankly, it's dissatisfaction. There has not been adequate sharing of information between health data sources. There is a societal need to ensure better healthcare by creating greater transparency on access, outcomes, and the cost of care. And something that's been building for years, and a result of the 21st Century Cures Act and other recent mandates, is this desire for patients to have more convenient access to their medical records, and also a need to facilitate a healthcare app economy that's frankly been lacking. So the Office of the National Coordinator, or ONC, issued a final rule earlier this year that empowers patients to have easier access to their records via an API, all the while protecting privacy and security with the overall goal to promote better health outcomes. This ONC ruling has implications for clinicians, hospitals, patients, and more. For clinicians, it will make it easier to get patient data from other providers outside of their network. It should also enable a greater choice in applications beyond the legacy or what was co-packaged with the EHR where your data happen to live. But one of the most important outcomes is that it is the last step to prevent information blocking. So no longer can patients or third parties that have been granted consent by the patient be denied access to their healthcare data by leaning on the excuse of incompatible technologies. So why does our industry need this? These important changes lead to better health information sharing between providers, payers, researchers, and drug and device developers. It allows innovators to get access to medical records in a way that they couldn't in the past. It allows for robust data collection in an analytics-friendly environment, including patient-reported outcomes and even wearables and the Internet of Things. And it provides the foundation for the next wave of digital healthcare app innovation. How can InterSystems help? InterSystems has a deep commitment to leveraging these important new standards. We are actively engaged in the evolution of the FHIR standard. We have people that sit on the HL7 committees that are developing FHIR. We have broad and deep support of open standards and interoperability. We offer the ability to integrate legacy data by providing built-in transformations. And we have created one common FHIR stack across all InterSystems products. So Iris for Health, HealthShare, and TrackCare all have a common FHIR stack, making development easier. This commitment to innovation is why more than 1 billion health records around the world are managed using our technology. It's why more than 90 million Americans have longitudinal health records connected with InterSystems HealthShare. It's why InterSystems TrackCare EMR is deployed across 27 countries, and why companies like 3M, Roche Diagnostics, and Epic build on InterSystems data platforms. Our systems are designed specifically to make connected healthcare a reality. So FHIR is an open standard, right? And that open standard serves as a framework that all of the entities touching healthcare data can agree to. So I think a good analogy illustrating the utility of an open standard framework like FHIR would be to consider the airline industry and travel aggregator websites. So you go to your favorite travel website, you input dates, cities, wherever you want to go for your next vacation, and poof, you get a list of available flights, prices, seat options, probably even baggage requirements across all the airlines that serve that particular route. And so this works not because the travel aggregator downloaded all the airline's flight timetables, but because data standards were agreed to ahead of time so that real-time requests, your requests for your vacation, can be made and responded to quickly and precisely. So FHIR, together with the right technology suite like InterSystems product offerings, can do that very same thing for healthcare.